Hey Wealth Builders, so today we're going to be talking about the officially announced Apple credit card. And before you jump in and get super excited about wanting to get this new credit card, make sure you stick around because we're going to be talking about some of the stuff that they didn't really emphasize while at the keynote, because they might be important when you decide to get this credit card. So as we talk about the Apple card today, we're actually going to be talking about some of the benefits of having the card, as well as, of course, like I mentioned, some of the things that we want to be cautious with before jumping in. But first, if this is your first video with us, my name is Dennis, and here on TruFinancials, we find ways to help you build more of your wealth and become more financially free. So make sure you hit that subscribe button down below and the bell to get notifications when new videos come up. So to be honest, after watching the Apple keynote on their new credit card, I was actually somewhat excited for it. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of credit cards because of things such as interest rates and the fees. Now, Apple is talking about actually having pretty much no fees and very low interest rates. But funny enough, they didn't really talk a lot about that stuff at their keynote, so I wanted to dig in just a little bit deeper so you can be informed with all the right information before going and getting this credit card once it's available. So one of the biggest things to note when it comes to this credit card is once they do have it available, it will be pretty instant from once you apply to once you have it available for you. And it'll be working directly with your Apple Wallet, which is what Apple kind of is really focusing in on with this card. Now they will have a physical card. It will be made out of titanium. Now the card itself is actually going to be backed up by Goldman Sachs as far as the financial institution. And then MasterCard is actually going to be the company going through the credit processing. So you should feel fairly comfortable with the companies they chose to partner up with in this venture, which I think is fantastic. So their Apple Pay is really where they're going to kind of put their focus in on, aside from actually just having the physical card. The Apple Pay itself will actually have a lot of detailed information, almost somewhat like a budget to let people know where they're spending their money. This might actually be very helpful for a lot of people so they can see where a lot of their money is going, as each category will be symboled by a certain color and they will actually be categorized all together. So it's going to make it a lot easier to see if you're overspending in certain categories, which could actually be pretty helpful. So I actually really like this idea of being able to really oversee all your spending. And the cool thing as well is that they're going to have the ability to really showcase where you were when you made those purchases. So if something comes up unexpectedly, you can actually click on it and they will show you a map of where that purchase was made. So in case that wasn't you, you can easily dispute that type of charge. So speaking of charges, one of the biggest things that they're really pushing on this is that they're gonna have a daily cash reward at 2% on all your purchases. But that's not gonna be exactly the case. So the nice thing about this daily cash is that it's no points, it's not waiting till the end of the month. You get those things right away into the actual cash card on your Apple Wallet, which you could either use to pay down your actual balance, send that money to somebody else, or use it as you please. So when they say 2%, that's actually gonna be about the average of what you should be getting back based on maybe the average of the purchases that they've been testing out. So they actually have a 3% cash back, and this is actually gonna be cash back on everything you buy from Apple, whether you buy it at an Apple store, apple.com, the App Store, or even iTunes as well. That includes games, in-app purchases, and services like Apple Music subscription, and then the iCloud storage plans as well. So pretty cool to get a little bit more money back for the things that you're probably already spending money on or plan on purchasing with Apple. And then the 2% cash back is getting 2% cash back every time you buy something with Apple Pay. If you're using the actual physical card, you're not gonna get the same type of cash back as if you are using the Apple Pay from your phone directly. So making sure that the places you go to, if they accept Apple Pay, you wanna use that method of payment. So here for the 2%, it says get 2% back every time you buy something using Apple Pay. That's in every category with no limits. Imagine all the things you use a credit card for every day. At Target, Walgreens, Lyft, you'll get 2% back on just about everything. Now, they do have a thing where it says 1% back, and this says if you happen to come across a store, website, or app that doesn't take Apple Pay yet, Apple Card still gives you 1% on all your purchases back in the form of daily cash. Getting that 2% isn't technically 2% because if a place doesn't offer the Apple Pay and you have to use the physical card, you only get 1% instead of the 2% back. I'm pretty sure they're doing this so that way they entice you to want to utilize the Apple Pay versus the Apple Card itself, which definitely makes sense, but it's kind of a little bit of a, asterisk kind of thing that they're putting on that 2% because it's not technically 2% in that regard unless you go every single place that happens to have Apple Pay. But I do really like the fact that you get your bonus right away. They haven't really talked about this part yet, but I do assume if you are getting a refund or a chargeback on a card, that bonus maybe will get taken out from future cash deposits. But again, they haven't gone into that and I haven't found anything about it just yet. So the next area is actually the APR. They didn't actually talk about this whatsoever. All they really referenced was the fact that they're gonna have some of the lowest in the industry, which is great to hear, but what does that actually mean? So I dug a little bit deeper and actually found out what their rates are gonna be. And of course, this is gonna depend on your credit scores. So it says that the variable APR ranges from 13.24% to 24.24% based on creditworthiness, and that's rates as of March 2019. So that means, of course, if you have a high credit score, you're gonna have those lower interest rates. And if you have a high or a low credit score, you're gonna have the high interest rates. Now, I was like, is that really the lowest that they have available? So I was looking around on the internet and I actually found one credit card that has a lower APR than what Apple Pay is claiming that is gonna be. And that is actually with Penn Fed Promise Visa card, and that actually has a 9.74% APR up to a 17.99%. All the other ones that I saw were fairly similar in range as far as some of the lowest in the industry. But one of the other big things that Apple really gloated on stage was the fact that they have no fees, not even the hidden ones. And on their site, it says that we want to make it easier to pay down your balances, not harder. So Apple doesn't have any fees, no annual fees, no cash advance fees, over the limit, or even late fees. It says no fees really. Our goal with Apple Card is to provide interest rates that are among the lowest in the industry. So it kind of got me wondering, well, you know, if there's no late fees, why would people pay their card back? If there's no over limit fees, you know, what's the case here? What's the catch when it comes to having these no fees? Now, no annual fee, kind of okay. I've seen that plenty of times with cards. Same thing with the cash advance, which of course you're still gonna be paying your interest rates for, so keep that in mind. So with the no late fee or the over the limit fee, I dug in a little bit deeper. So I did see that on their website, it says that late or missing payments will result in additional interest accumulating towards your balance. So that doesn't necessarily mean you get like a $35 late fee or overdraft fee, but you will get charged more interest. Now it doesn't specify whether you're gonna get charged more interest temporarily or if that's gonna be something where you get moved up in the interest rates overall and have to pay that new fee every single month from there on out. Now, I would suspect that possibly it's gonna be somewhere where you get bumped up in the interest rate and you can't go back down because you're obviously late or over the limit. But again, of course, when Apple said it originally about the no fees, it made it sound too good to be true. So I just wanted to make sure that you guys were aware of what some of those stipulations are when it comes to, you know, having a late fee or an overdraft fee. So as I mentioned earlier, that Apple is gonna be really focused in on the Apple Pay portion, and they're gonna have some really detailed information on Apple Pay as far as how you spend your money. The other cool feature that I actually really like about this Apple Pay is that it's gonna have this area where it's gonna show you how much you have to pay as a minimum, and then how much you have to pay to not have to pay as much interest, and then how much you have to pay to not have to pay any interest whatsoever on that monthly bill. And I actually find that really cool because at that point, you can actually make sure that you are, one, either paying off your total balance before getting charged any interest, or two, hitting a certain amount so that way you don't have to pay as much. Now, I'm of the mindset that you should pay off the card automatically when possible, but at least this way it gives you a great oversight of how much you're actually going to be paying in interest, which might cause you to want to pay those cards down quicker and not actually hold on to any balances. And on top of being able to tell you, how much interest you're going to be charged or how much to pay on your overall balance, the other thing that I really like too is the fact that Apple will remind you about these payments so you don't actually end up being late and paying those higher interests on your actual balance. So another great benefit with the Apple Pay will be actually the notification of your purchase transactions, and then also any unusual transactions will pop up to confirm that either they're your transactions or maybe there's an issue with that transaction itself and that it wasn't you. And I like when companies do that where it's an instant thing on your phone versus having to call them, go through customer service, So it's a really cool feature that I really like, and I hope more companies integrate that type of feature in their cards in the future as well. So one of the interesting features when it comes to the physical Apple Card is that it's actually not going to have any numbers, including a CVV number. So they say that the Apple Card doesn't have any numbers on it, not even the CVV number. So that's one less thing to worry about when you hand over your card at a restaurant or a store. And even if you lose your card, you can actually freeze it through the app or even order a new one directly from the wallet app. That's actually pretty cool, in my opinion, when it comes to protecting yourself. One, if you're handing your card to somebody at a restaurant, what's to say that they didn't actually have your information written down? But the fact that this card won't actually have anything physically for them to read off of, it's pretty cool. And the fact that you can freeze your card directly on your phone actually makes it for an extra level of security in case you're like someone that loses their card all the time and needs to freeze it. Makes it for a much easier time to be able to, go through the process of either applying for another card or, finding it again and then turning the card back on. And as far as actually applying for the card, they did say it's going to be coming in the summer of 2019, and that when you apply for it and get approved, it will actually be pretty instant from the moment you get approved to the moment you're able to start utilizing that credit. They didn't actually specify on the credit limit. I'm assuming that's going to be based off of the person's actual credit score. So not only are you going to be determined based off of your interest rate, but also to how much credit you'll have available. So on their website, they were kind of showcasing a card that had a limit of over $10,000. I don't think that would be the case for most people. That might be something where over time your credit limit will increase if you are a good borrower. And Apple also mentioned that they're gonna give you the ability to text them with any questions that you might have regarding your card or any updates you might have to do for the card, such as changing your address. And so being so simple with just a text message might make things a lot easier for people instead of having to sit there on the phone for, 10, 20 minutes before even reaching a customer service person and actually having their stuff taken care of. So it might be an interesting process of shooting them a text message to change your address and having it done within just a few moments on top of your regular everyday activities instead of having to be on the phone. I actually find that pretty interesting and I'm kind of excited for it, to be honest. So there are definitely some pros and some cons when it comes to deciding on getting the Apple Card. As I mentioned, of course, some of the things that they didn't really specify during the keynote seemed a little interesting to me, but of course, that's things that they always like to hold back on just a little bit. But I would be really curious to hear from you in the community. Are you interested in getting the Apple Card? Is this something maybe you're gonna get right away once it's announced? I'd like to hear from you why or why not in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this video, hit that like button down below. It really does help out. And then don't forget to hit that subscribe if you're not already. And if you wanna keep on watching more content here on this channel, click on this playlist right over here to keep on watching.